Streaming is up and running, so we're about to start. And if you could please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please, Doreen.
Amo, Anagnostakis,
Present.
O'Donnell, Sutherland, Twatel, Vero, Tui. 6 present, 1 absent.
Thank you, Doreen. First up on today's agenda is Commissioner of Social Services and Mental Health, Darcy Miller. Darcy, if you would join us, please. Turn that on.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good, thanks, Darcy. All right. First up, we have 1A. It's a request to accept an intermunicipal agreement between the County of Orange and the Village of Goshen for a detective to participate in the multidiscipline team, the MDT, at Social Services. Funds to come from existing budget, $178,196.63. Legislative request number 220. Can I have a motion, please? Go ahead, Commissioner.
So as you know, the Department of Social Services, Child Welfare, Child Protective Services has been working as part of a multidisciplinary team for decades, now housed within our Child Advocacy Center. This is a new contract with Village of Goshen. They provide a detective to participate with our team. It's a 5-year contract. It has the initial year and then 4-year renewal. So it's a continuation of that contract with the Village of Goshen.
Okay, great. Are there any questions, comments from the legislators? No? Okay, not seeing any. Call to question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we move on to 1B, request to add an additional $90,000 to the intermunicipal agreement between the County of Orange and the New York State Police, allowing for a detective to continue to participate in the multidisciplinary team, MDT, at Social Services. Funds to come from existing budget legislative request number 221. Can I have a motion, please? Legislator Tortel, second. Legislator Sutherland.
So New York State Police is one of the members of the team. In fact, they have 2 staff dedicated. We have a senior investigator that's split between Sullivan County and Orange County, and she actually runs the detective portion of our collaborative team. And the total amount of additional $90,000 is for the staff, the investigator that's dedicated to our team, and costs that have increased over the 5 years that we've had this contract with them. So some overtime costs and some increase in staff cost. So this is an additional $90,000 to a contract that is existing.
And Commissioner, how is this position, the detective and the officer, how do they participate in helping the social services? Do you have an example of what?
So they're co-located. They work in the same area as our child welfare staff, our child protective staff, and they investigate the significant crimes against children in the county with our child protective staff. So sex abuse, physical abuse, fatalities. They work very closely. They're an excellent team. They really work well together. In addition to the state police, we have the Orange County Sheriff's Office has a member, and the City of Port Jervis Police.
Okay, great. Any questions? Legislator Tortel.
Thank you. Thank you. Could you just, for the record, just define the multidisciplinary team so that if people come back to look at this in the minutes, they can understand exactly what we're spending this money on?
Sure. The multidisciplinary team is a collaboration between child welfare, child protective services, dedicated investigators who specialize in investigating this kind of abuse against children. It includes our social workers and our child advocates all working together to provide a, less a trauma-informed environment for children who have been abused and/or fatalities that have occurred in our county.
Thank
Are there any
you.
other further questions, comments? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye.
Thank
Any opposed? Nay, motion carries. All right, Commissioner, we got one more here. Request supplemental appropriation to the 2021 budget to receive and expand memorial donations in memory of former DSS employee Karen Smith, as requested by her family. The funds will not exceed $3,000, will be used to support and facilitate activities for children in the Child Advocacy Center, CAC, at Social Services. Legislative request number 225. May I have a motion, please? Second. Okay, Commissioner.
So Karen Smith was with our department for over 30 years. What am I talking about? She spent 20 years leading our multidisciplinary team from the child welfare perspective. If you can imagine, she was a lifesaver in many children's lives throughout that period. But in addition to that, she was a role model for many of our staff and our collaborators across the community. And a little over a year after she retired from service, she passed away unexpectedly. And her family, knowing her dedication and her commitment and her extreme close friendships with many of her colleagues, he really wanted money to be dedicated to the Child Advocacy Center, which was close to her heart, so that we could put a memorial there for her, buy some furniture for the children to acknowledge, her commitment to them through the years. And that's their commitment to us. So they called me and asked me, I said, I have to go through a legislative request, but it's worth it. We'll be able to expend these funds really buying some essentials that don't fit within our budget normally. And we thank the family and we thank Karen for her many years of service.
Great. And Commissioner, on behalf of the legislature, if you could extend our deepest condolences and thank you to the family.
Yes.
And appreciate that. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Legislator Anagnostakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know it was a sudden, unexpected loss, and I know it hurt everybody. The 3,000 donation, is that a set amount that they want to give? Why are we limited to 3 in case other people want to donate even more?
Right, up until the point that we put this legislative request forward, we had 2,500, so we went a little bit over just in case additional funds come in.
If additional come in above and beyond 3,000, we'd be limited.
I'll
Is
be
there
back
any-
to visit you, unless you want to go higher just in case.
Can we reword this to say, we could up that number,
We could say up to.
up to 5,000,
Yeah.
and whatever comes in, comes in.
Yes,
right?
yes. very-
Commissioner, did you say that if need be, you could also come back and request additional funds?
I could a request to appropriate additional funds. Currently, we have some personal checks, obviously, since we started receiving the funds, so we needed to move forward so we get those cashed.
But let me make it clear, we're not appropriating funds from us.
Speak into the microphone, please, Mike.
These are donations coming in to us from outside sources. So if we put a limit higher, it doesn't hurt us at all. So I would make a motion to change it and make it a limit of up to $6,000. And whatever comes in, and that's what you'll get.
I'll
If-
second that amendment to the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so we have a first and a second on that. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. The motion is to raise it to $6,000. Legislator Anagnostakis, 6,000. And not seeing any questions or comments. I'd like to call a question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Yes, you took the words right out of my mouth. All right, now on the original item 1C. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, please vote. Let's, Legislator Tortel.
Could you also extend mine and I'm sure my colleagues' condolences to your staff and her coworkers as well?
Thank you. It's a very emotional experience for all of us, yes. As we know, we've had many losses, throughout the year, and so have others. So, we all have become familiar with grief and hopefully with recovery and supporting one another. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Any other comments? Not seeing any, a call to question. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Not seeing any, motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, and Commissioner, you want to go into your monthly reports?
Sure. You have listed on the agenda August and September. As you know, this report adds on every month, so you'll see both August and September reflected here. As you look at temporary assistance safety net, we're still, we're hanging in, about the same place, but I expect to see that changing. September was the month where unemployment enhanced benefits ran out. Our friend Steve Knobs says unemployment in Orange County is down to as low as 4% right now. And we're seeing applications fly in for both safety net and family assistance. So we anticipate we'll see some increases in that over this year and certainly into next year. So we'll be continuing to monitor closely. We hope to see employment numbers increase, and those employment numbers are directly related to our temporary assistance, our cash assistance population. So as that population grows, we'll see our employment numbers grow as well, and we appreciate our partnership with employment and training in those efforts. Our SNAP numbers continue to rise, as we've seen from the beginning of the year throughout the pandemic. Through September and October, all through October, we had as many as 275 SNAP applications coming in a week. So we're going to see some rises in those. You saw in the newspaper yesterday an article about food insecurity and food shortage and talking about pantries and the food bank. And certainly we encourage everyone who's eligible to apply for SNAP benefits. They're still getting the higher rate in benefits. That was a federal government decision to support that increased amount of SNAP benefit, but costs of purchasing has gone up, and that's a challenge for many of our consumers, and we will continue to process those applications as quickly as we can. HEAP is in full swing. I think we talked here last month about the state providing the RAS, the additional support for households who were income eligible for up to $10,000 utility benefit in arrears. And that is going forward, and our staff and HEAP are working furiously. We talked over budget about overtime, and believe me, they are using overtime in that unit to address both populations, typical HEAP and this additional utility arrears, and we appreciate the efforts of all of the staff that are making that happen. ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance, we've provided updates, and Todd put together a little cheat sheet for me here today. We have a total of 3,563 applications that have gone into New York State for emergency rental assistance. To date, they have processed 920 of those applications, for amounting a total amount of a little over $11 million. We know that as they continue to process the rest of our applications, if they are all eligible, we're going to be well over 32 million requested from Orange County based on approximately a $12,000 average award for each of those applications. As of this past Sunday, they have stopped receiving applications. They've asked us to stop taking applications because they do not have any more money. They did ask the federal government for nearly, it's almost $1 billion that they're asking in addition to cover the total of all applications that have been received. We have guaranteed in Orange County up to 22 million, which was the total that was designated to Orange County. So I know we'll at least get applications processed to that total. But based on, our guesstimates, we're going to need as much as 10 million more to cover all of the applications that were sent in. So we wait with bated breath to see what happens, and we still have unexpended funds that were designated to Orange County that will be guaranteed to come here as they process applications. Anything else, Todd, with that?
The only thing is there's the possibility that with some of those
Yeah, that's true. That may very well happen. The only, yeah, exactly. And the only applications that are being received are is it 180% of median income to 220%? So it's the higher bracket that they're still receiving because it's a separate state fund. It's not the federal funds that they're using for that bracket. So, at least they're still processing some, but, as we contemplated taking this project on locally, the amount of work that's gone into it and the amount of effort the state's put forward, I think we made the best decision to really have them process all of these applications. It would have been a lot to manage, and workforce would have been tough to retain to get all of that work done. So, at the end of the day, it took them a while to get started, but once they did, they've done a pretty good job of processing it. So we appreciate all their efforts. Having said that, we start looking at our homeless numbers. We're starting to see some increase in our homeless placements. I will say that last Wednesday, I believe it was our first 32-degree day. So we had cold blue weather, meaning that we house anybody regardless of their status, regardless of their sanctioned, whether they're sanctioned for benefit or not. And literally, we were this close. We're so close to having to go out of county to house families. All of our shelters were full. Family slots were full. All of the motels we used were full. So people are staying in our motels that we typically use, so there weren't any rooms available for our homeless at that given time. So we're concerned about the moratorium lifting in January and our challenge with achieving permanent housing because the market is so limited and the rents have increased throughout the county. We'll continue to monitor the situation and nobody will be left without a warm place. It just might not be in Orange County. If we continue to find these challenges, we'll be searching other counties to find hotel and motel rooms for our Orange County residents to be safely housed during the cold blue experience.
Commissioner, with the hotel motel, it seems that that number's down dramatically on families.
Yes.
And the singles is down mainly from the last couple of years also. Are they getting permanent housing or?
Well, because of the eviction moratorium, they have maintained stable housing. So once that eviction moratorium lifts, we're anticipating there will be a number of evictions. Now remember, any landlord who agreed to receive funds through the Emergency Rental Assistance Program also had to commit to continue to rent and house their tenant for a year.
Okay.
So that should help us. The landlords who receive those funds have to keep them for a year, and they can't raise their rents during that year. So those are two commitments landlords had to make in order to receive those rental arrears. But this tells you how, we've talked many times about what causes or contributes to homelessness. It's really that eviction process, or people moving out of, or landlords evicting out of their rentals that leads to situational homeless, that leads us to that whole pathway of getting someone back into permanent housing. So, if you think about first month's rent and security deposit and last month's rent, for someone to rent an apartment that's going to cost $2,000 a month, they have to have $6,000 up front to cover that expense. Right now, we have some federal funds working together with community development that we're able to use for rapid rehousing. That will also help us. Our challenge is going to be the rental market is very slim across the county. We're struggling to find options.
Slim and expensive, right?
And expensive, yes. So costly. So true. And we've seen, I said Limoncello's looks wonderful. The building is beautiful. It's been renovated so nicely. But it used to be people with low income lived in those rooms up above. They're not available anymore. So we're continuing to see those kind of improvements happening, and which are wonderful for our communities and our economy, but not so good for those who have low income living in our county.
Any questions? Legislator Anagnostakis.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner, you mentioned we basically maxed out on the hotels that were available. I'm sure your team took a look at the other counties around us. What were their situations? Were they at max levels also?
We just remember, we weren't housing these, as you see on this, in September, we had 0 families. Usually we have kind of gone up as high as 24 families in a motel and 15 singles by history. None of those rooms were available. So they're not people we're housing, but there's people staying in the rooms that we typically use. So that's the difference.
Okay, and are the other counties having the same problem?
I was on a meeting with our regional DCSs, and all of us are very concerned about what's going to happen when the moratorium lifts. In particular, like down in Suffolk County, they closed shelters during the pandemic because their number of homeless was so small, knowing now they may need to be opening additional shelters. So yes, it is an issue across the state, and it's an anticipated one.
Right?
So,
You're saying we may not have them in our county, we don't know where we would have them. They
right.
would not necessarily go to Ulster or Sullivan because they might not have availability there either.
Correct. And some don't have shelters, so some counties don't have shelters. And I will add this, the warming stations will be opening, in fact, I think one of them opens this week, and then Newburgh, because they are renovating a new location, they will be opening December 1st. So some of our singles will be using our warming stations as well. But for our families, we need to have the hotel and the shelter options for them. So if, in fact, we continue to see a challenge with it, because we have agreements with some of the motels that we use across the county, and Todd wants to make a comment about motels as well.
No, that was basically what you told him, that they were filled, but not with our consumers.
Correct, right, exactly. It was just somebody was renting the rooms. The motels we use, usually they're not full.
Right? It's not like tourists are coming to stay in those motels.
Correct. Somebody's living there, though.
Do we have an explanation as to why we booked all of a sudden?
No, but I don't. I could make guesses, but that wouldn't be fair.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sure
I
you'll,
think it has to do with not having permanent housing available. It's really what it comes down to.
okay.
Yeah.
I know you're going to keep us abreast of that situation as
Yes.
it progresses.
Will do.
Thank you.
Any other questions about that? Okay. So we look at our Medicaid numbers. Oh, my goodness, I didn't realize we were at 121,609 individuals who are receiving Medicaid. As you know, we have not closed any cases throughout the pandemic, and we continue to open as appropriate. And that accounts for this large increase throughout the pandemic period. Child Protective Services, and I apologize, I meant to give you a quick update from the legislation change that came from the state that has to do with a change in the evidence that you need to have in order for the SCR, which is the Child Abuse Hotline, to accept a call and for us to then investigate and found a call regarding child abuse and or neglect. So I will prepare that for you and send it to you by email, and we can discuss it in more detail at our next meeting, because you're going to see some changes in those numbers next year, and I just want you to be prepared for why those changes are happening. So I will share that information with you.
Yes, legislator Anagostakis.
Very quickly, have those standards been lowered? And so we're going to be getting more cases now, I assume.
No, they've been raised.
Have.
Yes, they have been raised. So we should see less cases.
You're right.
I know, a surprise, right?
Very surprised.
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll want to see the details of it. And I actually asked my supervisors yesterday to give me the best explanation that we've been
When is it
provided.
going into effect?
January.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so you will see that, and I'll share with you next month.
If you could send that to Doreen,
Will do.
thanks.
Yes. Okay, I raised the age, remain consistent with that, and I will just tell you that this year, since our collaborative team, our children's cross-system team, which involves mental health, probation, child welfare, and our community providers who are invested in this system, they have done 60 case conference, including 42 youth, some with a high enough complexity that they have multiple meetings. And the process has had better outcomes for our youth. As you see, they become minimally involved in the juvenile justice system. And our schools also participate and appreciate the efforts that have led to better success for our youth. So our numbers remain low of youth who qualify under Raise the Age, and our commitment of our cross-system staff is to be acknowledged and appreciate their good work.
Commissioner, with Raise the Age in August and September, August primarily, those numbers are up considerably from traditionally what they usually are.
Yes.
What do you attribute that to? Was there anything special going on at the time, or?
Yeah, unfortunately, they didn't give me any indication why those numbers increased significantly in August, any more detail beyond that, but I can certainly ask the question, you know, as to how they're processing them is as important as, you know, why the arrests occurred. But I don't know why August was such a
Same for
significant.
September, they're kind of just up, and I'll tell you, they're still very low.
But I'll say
Great,
this
but
too.
it's just that there is something going on there, it looks like.
Communication with school districts, which, you know, as I think I mentioned here before, we have a cross-system meeting we have monthly with the Newburgh School District and their administrative and ancillary team. They report an increase in violence among their student body. We have a monthly meeting with 5 other representatives of superintendents across the county. All of them are reporting an increase in violence. You probably, Legislator Sutherland, are experiencing it too. I think, you know, it has to do, again, with the fallout from the pandemic, you know, not regular being in school, you know, having more freedom of schedule, not being socialized throughout that period, depression, anxiety, grief, loss, all kinds of. But we are brainstorming with many of our districts and trying to support them the best we can. But there's that increase in violence is rolling out into the community. It may actually be leading, for some districts, for them having to call police intervention into the schools as well.
Okay, thanks.
That's me, excuse me. It's the DA, and I just hung up on him. I'll call him back.
Whoop. Boy, they really want you.
Sorry, I just said I'm sorry, I can't talk now. I apologize, I should have shut the phone up. It's off now. Okay.
Foster care?
Foster care, yes, 286 in foster care. Isn't that a great number? I mean, that is so exciting to me. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into bringing that number down to 286. As you can see, we trended as high as 402 at one point over the past 5 years. So to be at 286 means that really the wraparound supports and the commitment that we're giving to families in our community to hold families stable is incredible. The number of adoptions that are happening to give children permanent homes to be in. You know, Todd and I, when we were looking at the budget for 2022, we were surprised with the decrease in the number of children we have in care, why we didn't see a correlating decrease in our costs related to foster care, you know, consistent with this decrease in numbers, really because we have adoptions that are occurring too, which is a wonderful experience for families to be able, and our children to be able to be adopted. And that cost is in that line as well, because there's a continuous cost for children who are adopted and supported in that way. But again, appreciate the cross-systems work and commitment. You know, I told you before, we have mental health co-located with child welfare. We have substance abuse experts co-located with child welfare. That collaboration is really helping to stabilize families much more quickly than it has in the past. So we appreciate this reduction. I hope we continue to see that trend or at least stay steady with that.
Great job.
Adult protective services, we see, you know, those numbers going up. And we anticipated, you know, during the isolation of the pandemic, we had some reduction, but we expect they will go back up to typical numbers. We have large numbers of guardianships, and home care is the workforce issue that we've all been struggling with. to get direct care providers to provide support. A home care unit may, recommend a certain number of hours of in-home supports for someone, but finding the workers to fill those hours is very difficult.
Sorry, everybody's phones are ringing.
Be the DA calling you.
Jimmy, is that you?
Okay, child support collection.
Uh, Sorry, you're back. Hold on. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, child support collection remains consistent. Great team. Appreciate their efforts. We bring in, as you see through the years, over 40 million. In 2020, it was almost $44.5 million in child support processed through our office in collaboration with the courts and out into homes, supporting and providing funds for children. Special investigations, we see their work increasing as we have increased temporary assistance or cash assistance applications. We'll see more and more feds reviews as well as investigations. The fair hearing is still being done virtually at the state's request or demand. They're the ones who schedule those fair hearings, and our staff are continuing to manage whatever comes in front of them. And that's it.
Okay.
You had asked me a question about the southern border flight that was said to have come into Westchester with some transfer of immigrants who came into Newburgh. I will say that in the past couple of weeks, I did get a call from a pastor who was concerned about some youth that they believe were part of those flights that were relocated to Newburgh. And I did speak with the superintendent of the school district in Newburgh, and he did indicate they have had 300 youth register since the summer who are from Latin countries, Spanish speaking. The pastor was calling specifically about a large number that he believed registered at the district in a single day, as many as 60 students. His concern was that it was 32 degrees that day. Some of them had flip-flops on. So his concern was that we have young people who've been relocated to our community who may not have all that they need to be able to deal with the weather, and he wanted to be part of a system of support for these young people, bringing donations in. So he's connected with the school district now. We are also continuing to connect with them to advocate for whatever these young people might need. I learned from our Rockland County commissioner that no one was told formally about these unaccompanied youth who were coming to this area. But we have learned through conversation and through street talk that, yes, there have been some unaccompanied youth who've come. They've been located with extended family members and some other families that have committed to take in youth. My understanding from the Rockland County Commissioner is that when they arrived, Children's Village, which is located in Westchester County, was identified by the whomever, I guess the federal government that helped get them here, that there would be one home visit that would be conducted and one follow-up phone call. So there was something formal that was done, but it was not anything that came in through the state or through the local government. It's only through the streets that we're learning that. So whatever support we can provide, we will. These children and youth are not eligible for benefits under, federal and state code rules and regulations. But if by chance they do come to our attention and we become involved to provide safety for them or to provide alternative housing, it will, for a period of time, be county tax that would cover whatever expense are connected with these youth.
All right, well, thank you very much for that update. I know there's not much out there on it. It sounded like you did some good due diligence there to see, how we can help. And the amazing thing is that when people come in and we don't know they're coming in and we don't know where they are, it's impossible to help. So anything you can do to keep us up to date on that and keep your ear down there to the ground and listen, and that would be great.
Anything that comes through, you know, that they're looking for, some additional donations or support. Like I said, our community is so generous. You know, you do a coat drive and coats come from all over. And that's what's going to be needed for some of these young people who will now be part of our community. You know, they're going to need to have those types of supports. And, you know, I said to the school district, you know, you have the greatest burden because, you know, you are the institution that is going to be more closely supporting these young people. So please let us know if you identify any trends that we can help with. So they will.
Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
sure. Thank you.
Commissioner, I think that's it. You don't have anything else for
Nope,
us?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
All right, that being said, that clears the desks for Human Services. So I'd like to take a motion to adjourn. Second, John Vero, first, Tortel, and all in favor, say aye. Aye, all opposed? None being adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, we're just going to take a 5-minute break to switch over the live stream and